When and how did you discover your diagnosis of neurodivergence?
Oh, this is hysterical. So I didn't find out until I was 40, apparently. Well, there's an axiom that I have embraced, which is that my liabilities can become my assets. If you want to become a better man, find a woman with self-esteem and boundaries. And I have my list of friends that I can be unfiltered with,
Sure.
and then there's everybody else.
I'm one of them, I'm hoping.
Yeah. Oh, yes, you are.
You look good in the black chairs.
Yeah, they look good on the camera.
Yeah, I guess they look good on camera. I don't know. I feel better after I've eaten. I was really hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't do well when I don't eat. I feel like do I just look older now, or is the light different? Say it's the light. Oh yeah, I can actually. Is that a hint to me? Some kind of like terrible wedgie or something. I must remember that Andy's always recording, and that'll go in. My name is degeorgiou, and welcome to the Empowered Exchange. My guest today is legendary music producer JJ Blar. Think Rod Stewart, The Who, Johnny Cash, June Carter Cash, the list goes on. He's also my friend, and I'm so glad to have him here today. Welcome, JJ.
So happy to see you.
You too. This is what it takes, you know.
Yes.
It takes me actually starting a podcast to get to have lunch with you.
It's wonderful.
It was totally worth it. Yeah. You know, when I started this podcast, I was thinking about different guests that I wanted to invite, because I wanted to have people who've had incredible careers and had these journeys through their careers, both professionally but also personally. And you and I met quite a long time ago now. Probably, I have almost 22 years sober, so it's right around there.
Yeah.
And I remember coming to your music studio when I was about a year sober, I think, totally out of my depth, totally impressed with you, with your studio, with your accolades. And then, like, boom, I get that you're sober too. And it was such a relief, because instantly it transcended all of those nerves, all of the feelings of, you know, the disparity between where I was and where you were and where I wanted to be. And it was just such a lovely thing and so disarming. So, you know, I really appreciate that. I don't know what your memory of that is, but
I was just like, here's this brilliant, talented, very fun person. So, and who was newly sober.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know what that feels like.
Yeah, totally. And I forget, I know you have a lot longer sober than me, but I forget.
I'm about 35 and a half-ish years.
Yeah.
So.
And how old were you when you started your music career?
I mean, I started playing in clubs professionally when I was a teenager in high school. Mm-hmm. And I had bands, whatever, before that, but that was, that was when my professional musical career started. And that was, I was just looking for ways to keep that going, because I love music so much, and I love making music.
Yeah. So I'm assuming then that you were sort of in active addiction at that time.
Oh yeah. I mean, I got sober when I was 19,
right?
But, when I moved to Los Angeles to really try in earnest to see if I could make some type of career in music, I was already sober by that time.
Okay.
And you know, I like to tell people I didn't get sober at 19 because I'm good or anything. I just suck at alcoholism that much that I could not make it past 19.
Right.
That's how bad my alcoholism and addiction was.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I just realized I didn't think college was going to provide me with what I wanted. I took the recording classes that they offered, and I just needed to come and throw my hat in the ring and see what I could get going.
It looks like you got quite a lot going.
There's a bit, a bit. I mean, you know, I don't know that the term legendary works, but I just like to say my life is weird. I've found myself in a lot of situations where I'm like, okay, my inner 13-year-old is very excited right now that I am working with this person.
Yeah.
And
Who is that? Who's the number one for you, for the 13-year-old?
I got to record Jeff Beck for a week, and that was pretty crazy. Playing with The Who was just absolute, you know, and just this last weekend, I got to do a gig with Stephen Stills and Neil Young, and I'm standing behind them, you know, playing guitar, just going, this is really, I was just trying to appreciate the moment and go, this is very strange.
Yeah.
In a good way.
No, totally incredible. I mean, you know, I've had moments like that myself where, and I feel like sometimes it wasn't possible in the moment to really appreciate it. It was looking back on it and being like, wow. And particularly the ones when I was younger and I kind of just didn't know how fortunate I was. You know what I mean?
I think I've just gotten to the point where I have tried to recognize certain moments so that I can think back in them, and or even, you know, my big joy in life is helicopter skiing in Alaska, right? And I'll never forget the first time I went, the very first outing, I'm sitting on the helipad waiting for the helicopter to come. And I'm just so excited, and I just started rubbing my ear so that in case I need to go back to that moment, I can like rub my ear and recall the thrill of that moment. You know, like the promise of what that day might hold. And I've never forgotten that. And as I get into certain situations, I really, as much as I will be in them and act like I've been here before, and, you know, not make a spectacle of myself and just be, you know, there and be a competent person doing my job, not going total fanboy on whomever. I find it, I try to take a moment. I mean, last year, the way I came into the Stephen and Neil orbit, Stephen asked me to, I met Stephen because I asked him to sing on a record I was making from one of his best friends who had passed. And he took a liking to me, and he asked me to come help him with some rehearsal with Neil. And I just remember I'm this far from the two of them, and they're singing Long May You Run, and I'm getting goosebumps, and I'm just trying to remember, like, this is insane. Like, how many people get to be in this situation? How did I get so lucky? And you know, don't make a mess of things so I get invited back. And I did. I did.
Yeah, that's great.
But
I mean, I've always seen music as a type of therapy, you know, and I recall long before I got sober, I had identified music as something that soothed me. And it was one of my few coping mechanisms that wasn't self-destructive. Do you find it, I'm assuming, therapeutic?
I mean, music got me through my teen angst and just burying myself in playing my guitar. I think, I don't know, aside, you know, I'm also on the spectrum, and so that is one of my special interests. So I didn't know it at the time, but for me to be able to sit there and analyze the songs and analyze what they're playing and try to recreate what they're playing and the sounds they're making, it was a pathway for me to self-soothe, really.
Yeah, totally. And I think, you know, for neurotypical and neurodivergent people, it's, you know, it's a great vessel sometimes to sort of allow your mind to have a little bit of respite.
And then eventually find out that the chicks dig it too, but that's another story. But that wasn't my motivation.
Yeah.
I just was like, I just realized like, oh, there's another benefit to this.
Yeah. When and how did you discover your diagnosis of neurodivergence?
Oh, this is hysterical. So I didn't find out until I was 40. Apparently, a friend of mine who had who has a child who is very severely autistic said to me, you know, anyone ever said this to you? And I was like, no. What do you mean? And I started dating my current sweetheart, and she just thought I was a very insensitive jerk who would say extremely inappropriate, unkind things, and I was just, I don't know, saying what I thought was funny or came to mind. What I didn't realize was my sense of humor outpaces my sense of empathy. And I had to ask, you know, now that I knew.
You and a lot of men, apparently.
Well, yeah, but it was, I'm not when we're off camera, I'll tell you the story and you're gonna laugh and hit me at the same time. But this was a thing, you know, there were a number of people who just couldn't deal with me anymore because I would just say things that apparently I didn't realize were hurtful to them, and I thought I was just being funny. And as I realized, oh, this is something I do, I have a little, you know, guardrail now between my mouth and my brain, where I run it. I'm like, who am I saying this to? Can they, you know, is this? And I have my list of friends that I can be unfiltered with, and then there's everybody else.
I'm one of them, I'm hoping.
Yeah. Oh, yes, you are. But it's funny, when I first read about the condition, like my whole life made sense.
Right.
Finally, it was like when I found out about alcoholism, and I was like, oh, that's what's happening. This is why I'm doing it. It was the same thing as like my entire life made sense. From the, you know, abuse and bullying in middle school and high school and all these things, and just my inability to interact with people, you know, my inability to make small talk with people, and only want to talk about my special interests and et cetera. It was. And it's not so much that there is a treatment for it, but understanding my tendencies and being aware of them, now I can go like my brain hasn't changed, but now I know what are the guardrails, what are the boundaries.
I suppose on some level you can kind of offer a disclaimer as well. You can kind of say, listen, sometimes you know.
You know, it used to cost me work. Amy, it may still, but what would happen was, I would meet with a band and they'd play me their stuff, and I'm sitting there and I would just go into my stone face, you know, because what I'm doing is I'm analyzing and running computations and trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to produce this song? What am I going to do? And I'm like, you know, but what I wasn't doing was I wasn't going like,
you weren't grooving out.
Oh yeah, you know, doing the whole our chair dance thing. And so I wouldn't hear from them, and then I'd find out they were working with someone else. I'm like, what happened? They're like, oh, we went with someone who was more into what we were doing. I'm like, I was totally into what you were doing. And I got some other feedback like this, and I realized, so now by road, I have to kind of do what
performative
to let people know, to verbalize. Otherwise they just there's our friend Malik calls me, his nickname for me is Spock, because there's just like no emotion, and I just have that straight
it's pretty spot on
wooden face all the time. Unless I'm excited about something that, you know, like
specific.
This microphone. Let me tell you about this microphone. So
it's funny you bring up the sort of I mean, just losing opportunities or saying the wrong thing or ruining relationships. I have a friend who I believe has probably experiences the same difficulty, and and I got this call from a woman that was a mutual friend, and she said, well, I called this friend of mine, ours, and I was very upset because I'd been assaulted. And I told him how this man targeted me to victimize me. And he said, I find that unlikely because you're quite a large woman. You wouldn't be like a good, he was like, I find that really unlikely that he targeted you. and this woman was so upset. And I explained that possibly what was happening is he was just trying to offer a logical analysis of the likelihood of what actually might have taken place.
Yeah, as I said, and we'll skip. It's not that we aren't empathetic,
right?
But that's not our first response.
Yeah,
our first response is logic or my need to tell you the brilliant one-liner I just came up with.
Right.
And
and it's funny because people say that they want the truth, but I think what most of us want is they can't handle the truth. but what most people want, I think more on the female side, what we want is a tactful presentation of the truth at the right moment. In the right company.
And you know what everyone wants? Everyone wants to feel heard. And that's what I try to remember. People don't always want the answer. They just want to know that you've heard them. And what is it that advice also often... like advice without compassion feels like criticism or something. There's something like that.
It's totally.
And in the end, and I and that was something I had to get into in my relationship because my girlfriend, who loves me a great deal and does have a great deal of experience and wisdom and studies all kinds of things, frequently she'll want to tell me what she knows about something, and we've got, and over the years I just said, sweetheart, I just want you to hear me. I don't, which she totally got, and that's something I try to take into, when I'm helping other people, when I'm helping, other addicts and alcoholics. I don't need to necessarily tell them the solution right away.
Right.
I need they want to feel understood.
Yeah, I mean, you have been so helpful to so many people I know, and I'm one of them. When I came forward with my story of abuse, you were one of the first people who reached out, and subsequently, I've learned of your own experiences with childhood abuse.
Yeah,
and I think it's just particularly for men, there's a very strong stigma attached to that. And it makes it all the more difficult for men to come forward and be honest about things that have happened. And that then perpetuates the stigma so that other people feel more alone whilst they're going through that.
Well, there's an axiom that I have embraced, which is that my liabilities can become my assets if I share them with people, particularly. So my father was killed when I was young. One of the worst things that's ever happened to me. However, when somebody is going through a similar type of tragedy, the fact that I can say to them, I know what you're going through. I know how you feel. And maybe no one else in that room can. Now that tragedy is something useful, I can use that to be of service to somebody else, which is really, for me, the ultimate fulfillment of our purpose in life is just to be of service. And knowing what you had experienced, you know, I could make a sincere connection with you, an empathetic connection of going, look, I know what this is like, and particularly to have to keep being re-traumatized by something that's so public and ongoing. You know, and I love you and I care about you, so I reach out and I just say, hey, you know, just a reminder, I love you and care about you, and I hope you're doing okay.
Yeah. And I also have heard your story many times with, you know, shared with our fellows, and I know how many people have greatly benefited from hearing your story, and also hearing about your victory over the things that happen to you, in the way that they don't define who you are, and that you've been able to have this amazing life and career and personal success also.
Well, this is a really interesting thing. I thought for years that my story defined me, and that I'm always going to be a handful, and I'm always going to have the overwhelming abandonment issues that I had, and all these various, you know, trauma responses that I had. And you're just going to have to deal with that if you're in my life, if you're in a relationship with me, and you're all these things. And then eventually I discovered that I am not my story, you know, and I get to be something different. And I get to change the narrative. Because I suffered for so many years. It's funny, as much as I've done some really cool things and worked with some really cool people, I haven't had the material success that a lot of people I know have, because in the years where, you know, people are making their bones, I was struggling for mental health, and I was in and out of mental hospitals. And, you know, in my 20s, I would have like little, because I was dealing with so much overwhelming suicidal depression and a number of things. And I remember I was working with this band, and the minute I finished the last mix, one of my best friends picked me up and drove me to Los Encinas.
Wow.
And then I went and spent 2 weeks at the Meadows, you know, and this is at 9.5 years sober, and just completely suicidal because I've put myself in another really horrendous relationship type of, you know, I didn't realize I had the mommy issues I had. And
Don't we all?
but and as I compare myself to a couple people I know who went on to have these multi-platinum careers where they get the mailbox money that I didn't, and I look at their lives and I go, you know what? I'm happy with who I am, and I'm glad, you know, they had it together enough, but they're now doing the work that I was able to do in my 20s, and I'm comfortable. You know, they have, you know, they have more and nicer guitars than I do. I have a lot of really nice guitars. No one's going to cry for me, but whatever it is. And I just realized, you know, that was my path, and that was, I love who I am today. I'm okay with me. And that was what I needed to go through to get to where I am now. And so I don't, you know, there's nothing that I would change.
Sure. I really love who you are too. I mean, and I've seen, you know, I've known you a while, and I've seen you go through struggle in relationships and in, with yourself, you know. What do you think, I mean, as far as sort of being in unhealthy romantic relationships, one of the of the problems that I've faced, but also that many people I work with face, is how do you shift that? How do you change who you're drawn to?
Well, first off, water seeks its own level.
Right. Yeah. True that.
One of the things that I learned was it was the idea of homeostasis. Mm-hmm. So, we think of homeostasis as 90 beats per minute, 98 degrees of body temperature, but there's also emotional homeostasis. Mm-hmm. And I grew up with chaos and abandonment. Mm. I grew up with no self-esteem. Mm-hmm. I grew up not being able to trust people. Mm. So I didn't realize that's what I kept picking, mm-hmm. because that was what was comfortable for me. That was much more, if somebody...
Maybe familiar more than comfortable.
But no, comfortable.
Was it?
I'll tell you why it was comfortable, because something that wasn't that was uncomfortable. It was scary to do something. Right. So if somebody really loved me and thought I was like, oh my God, what's wrong with you? And so I would pick people who were going to abandon me, and if they weren't, I would make sure you wanted to get the fuck away from me,
Right.
So
right.
that's kind of,
yeah.
And I kept putting myself in these situations where I would re-traumatize myself, mm-hmm. and I to tell you how parallel it became. Mm. So my father died. She put me in a mental hospital. My mom put me in a mental hospital when I was 10 for 5 months, and married my stepfather while I was in there. When I had 9.5 years sober, and this person I thought I was now, that I who really wanted to be with me, and I was like, no, I can't be with you. If you really want to be with me, something's wrong. But then she went to somebody else, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I got, but I didn't even know she was with him. But I knew something was off. Something was off, and I was spiraling. And I'm at the Meadows, and I find out while I'm at the Meadows they're together, and it was just like, oh boy, this has really gone full circle.
Right. Right.
It's sort of, I had to really examine where did I come from and reconcile that. And the amazing thing is when I met Bird, my partner and sweetheart, I was terrified, because I'm like, wow, this is someone who has boundaries and self-esteem, and I will, and to anyone who's watching, if you want to become a better man, find a woman with self-esteem and boundaries. And that was terrifying to me, especially because I was recently divorced, and I'm like, woo, I'm free, and I'm doing all the crazy things people do when they're freshly divorced. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, this is, I got to take a chance on this, because this is
something special.
This is an amazing person.
Yeah.
And it was a very bumpy transition for her and for myself, and God bless her for seeing my willingness to change beyond my ability, that took a while. Anyway, when I finally settled in and I realized what a life with joy is like, and without drama. I mean, I was 40 when I finally realized what joy felt like for the first time in my life. I never had really experienced joy, and I realized I had been pursuing pleasure instead of joy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And pursuit of pleasure was not giving me happiness.
Well, it's gone in the moment, right?
It's in the moment, or it's the pursuit of the promise of pleasure. You get caught up into it, and the absence of chaos and drama was like, oh, this is incredible, and then I start to recognize chaos and drama in people, because when you're chaos and drama, you don't see it. That's the water taking its own level.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
And then when you kind of reach this above that a little bit, and you find contentment and happiness, you're like, wow, I had to fight so hard to achieve this. I'm not letting this person or situation, you know, job, whatever, drag me back down into into the hell that I put myself through for so many years. And so to make a short story long as to your question, that is, you know, if you take that chance and you get away from that long enough, then you recognize, like, really? I would, you know, sleep with people I wouldn't even want to have lunch with.
Right. Yeah.
You know, there are people that I just don't want to be around them because the energy is so crazy. And I just didn't realize that there was a different choice.
Yeah. And I think that's, you know, it wasn't until I'd been sober for a few years, and I was really investigating what the underlying issues were, that I realized that, and people pointed out to me, people who care for me and who I respected and cared for, pointed out to me that, you know, I had a lot more choices than I was acknowledging. And I didn't like all of them, but I needed to acknowledge that there were more choices available to me.
Well, you know? Here's part of what I realized at one point is what sometimes are referred to as defects of character are actually survival instincts.
Sure.
And so I need to pick this type of person because I am convinced that is what I need to survive.
Right.
Because I'm not, I don't know how to rely on myself in this type of situation. I need, you know, I need this type of relationship or various other things. Other, you know, I've seen people who are sober a long time and work a very active recovery program do some behaviors that you're like, huh. And what I realized was those were survival instincts, you know?
Yeah, when your survival's threatened,
And they eventually, and part of the path sometimes is you do these things that keep you sober till that survival instinct finally burns you enough that you are beaten into a state of reasonableness, as some people would say. And that's what happened to me. Like, I had to keep putting myself in these situations that would leave me suicidal that, you know, and I never wanted to drink or get high, but I did want to kill myself till eventually I was willing to let go of this idea of what I thought I needed or what I thought, you know, because there was just, if it's a survival instinct, you can't let go of it. That feels like death.
Feels like death. Yes, totally. I mean, I totally, you know, that totally resonates with me. And I look back at my past and I look back at the decisions I've made and the choices of relationships. And I'm like, wow. And, you know, like, I wouldn't want that person to be with, you know, my worst enemy, you know?
Exactly.
And I was throwing myself back in every time, right?
Well, that's why I always say what we're doing in this process, it's better living through trial and terror.
Yeah.
You know, we don't just stop drinking and using drugs and become these awesome people. Now we like feel all our feelings, and so we're doing whatever we can to cope through our feelings, because whatever program we're working isn't going to like fix us right away. It's just going to enable us to stay sober while we are bottoming out on decades of learned behavior. You know, and hopefully eventually.
Yeah. Hopefully you do learn eventually. Yeah. I mean, you know, for me, it was also, I had to learn to be self-supporting and self-sustaining on every single level. And then I had to carry that with me and not have the expectation that anybody else was going to offer me any of that basic self-sustaining, self-supporting stuff. Like, none of it. And that also allowed me the ability to leave when the behaviors that they were doing were not in line with my ethics or in line with my requirements, because I wasn't suddenly like losing a lifestyle or losing emotional stability by stepping away, you know? So I had to make sure that that's always in place, that my self-sustainability on every level was present.
And can I tell you how proud of you I am, because I understand, you know, I know your background, and I know that trap, and there becomes a dependence on that idea that like, oh, I can, you know, somebody can give me this,
Right.
and you know, particularly somebody as beautiful and intelligent as yourself. It's like there's a lot of guys who want to give you that, but at what cost?
At what cost?
And that is a very difficult. You know, I've just seen so many people not believe in themselves enough, and you know, and I've gone through that myself with we've talked about this with my family situation, where it's just like I'm going through something where I just thought I won't need to worry about my retirement, and now I have to worry about it. And I look, and as much as I was freaked out about it, but I was like, okay, the universe is presenting me an opportunity to now
it's a gift
to be a little more assertive about my business and my future, and not be the shrinking violet that I sometimes am. I'm like, okay, well, someone else can get the job.
And the universe knows you can do it.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know? I mean, I know your partner, Bird. She's just the most incredible, beautiful person, and you two are just the cutest couple ever. And I know your career, and I also know among your peers in the business, you are so well respected, you know, and I think that's like a huge deal, because there are so many people who are not well respected because they're not good people. But for your ability, for your knowledge, for your commitment, you're so well respected, but also for your kindness and generosity, you know.
Unless you piss me off.
Well, there you go. But you know, you have a great sense of humor. But so with all this, and with this great relationship and all these things that you've achieved, what's next?
Well, first off, the music business is in a state of collapse, and so we're all scrambling to figure out what's next. Like and I am just simply trying to open myself to what's the next opportunity. And it's very strange. I sort of I've stumbled into what is the biggest cliche of the last 10 years, which is I had my social media account just to, you know, because I'm an exhibitionist and I just like my friends to know what's going on. And I started doing something for my own entertainment that really resonated and caught on with people. And I mean, I was standing outside the Kings game, and some guy recognized me from Instagram and came up.
Wow!
And I've been in restaurants. It's weird.
That's so cool.
It's, you know, and I've never ever. I think fame is a terrible thing. We moved to LA. One of my first best friends had been on a really huge TV show. Everyone recognized her, and I just saw all the pitfalls of it, and I was like, that's not for me. I can't do that. But it seems to be generating some grassroots work, which is all there is anymore, because we really don't have labels anymore. There's no one, you know, and when the only people that they're feeding are the people who have the big, like, doing Dua Lipa or whatever.
Totally.
It's just.
I mean, I love your Instagram posts, and I also like very few times will I actually go and read comments on other people's Instagram posts. I mean, what do I care? But I will go and read the comments, because the way that you interact with people, first of all, you do interact with people and you'll fully engage. And also your posts are so interesting. I mean, I'm kind of like, I've always been a little bit like geeky with stuff like that. I love to kind of understand how music is put together and what the components are and how they work together and what equipment does this and whatever. And you break everything down and you have such enthusiasm with it. It's so authentic. And there are so many people.
It's that spectrum-y stuff.
Yeah, but maybe I have that too. Maybe that's what the thing is with me. It could be, but the way that you interact with people is hilarious. You know,
particularly when they're rude.
Yeah. Oh, totally. But it also, the way you interact with people when they're rude speaks to how much work you've done on yourself, because it's you know, you often have some sort of witty retort, but there's love underneath it. It's not like you're not just mean to people, you know?
To a point. I can be, you know, even people I know. I got into something recently where I have a situation where I have been begging somebody to be a little more considerate, and they just, I don't think they understand what it is, and I kind of really went off on them in a way that a lot of people saw, and some people thought I went too far, and some people were like, "No, it was someone said it was a breath of fresh air,"
yeah.
and. But here's the interesting thing. If I'm going to say something like that, I'm very measured. I'm not the person who just, you know, there are very few times that I will go like, am I willing to cross the Rubicon?
Right.
And say the deal breaker.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And there is some forethought that goes into it. I the other day, someone's response to my post on the Carpenters was "Get a life," and I just said, somebody sounds like they need a hug. That's, you know.
There you go. You know. Well, I mean, I'm British. A little sarcasm goes a long way, and but I'm so grateful that I met you totally by chance, you know, and it really, now that I've known you all this time, probably 21, 22 years, I realize, you know, how fortunate I am, and how so often your path and the way that you express what's happened to you has offered me some piece of comfort that I really needed in that moment. And I know that it's done that for many, many people. And I really look forward to seeing you keep going with all the things.
Well, the same. And that's the great thing with being committed to a path and seeing and walking along it with someone else is you get to see your change, like the change in you, by seeing the change in someone else. And I've seen so much growth and change in you. You know, because not every I have friends from high school who are the same person to their detriment, you know. Probably because they haven't had to make the choice between life and death that we've had to.
Yeah, totally. I had a physical therapist once, and the first time I met him, I could see his body was covered in scars, you know, and I don't know how they got there, but you could see he'd suffered a lot. And I was suffering a lot on the inside and the outside when I went to see him. And he said, you have to lean into the pain because the pain will show you the way. And I think that's very true, and it has been for me, and it seems like it has been for you too.
Yeah.
So we will continue the journey and continue the conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well,
JJ.
thank you for having me. I'm so happy to see you.
Me too. Me too.